So, dear brothers and sisters, this reading, or the Gospel from Matthew today, Matthew 20, it sounds a bit unfair to us, but obviously these are parables, so we should try to discover what the Lord is saying, what he's trying to reveal to us through this. So, when this landowner goes out and hires people in the morning. So if you hire him in the morning traditionally began at 6 o'clock in the morning. So if you went out again to the sixth hour was midday. And the 9th hour is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the 11th hour is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So the 11th hour, the day was considered to start at 6 o'clock in the morning and finish at 6 o'clock in the evening. That's how Jewish days kind of worked. So when you go out with the 11th hour, it's not 11 p.m. because, who would start working at 11 p.m. It's 5 in the evening, but they only worked 1 hour. So again, today, with all of our legal requirements as regards employees and wages and so on and so forth, if you work a full day, you obviously have to get paid more than the fellow who just works 1 hour. So the Lord isn't talking about just wages. He's not. This isn't a parable about money or how to pay a fair wage. There's something else going on here. So what is it? When we look at people's life stories, right? Or you may even look at, if you've ever been to Medjugorje, I've ever heard any of the testimonies from the young men or the young women in the Chinaklo community. They may have lived an absolutely disastrous life for 20 or 30 years, and then they convert, through after hitting rock bottom, after stealing from their parents, after wasting thousands, maybe tens of thousands of euro on drugs and just irresponsible decisions. They discover the Lord, they meet the Lord, maybe through a loved one or a family member who kind of pushes them into the Chinaklo community, and then there they discover the Lord. They discover that there's an answer to this deep longing of their heart. Now, they have wasted 25 or 30 years of their lives, maybe more, but now they're with the Lord. So what do they, the help of God, when they pass away, when we all pass away, the help of God, they'll get heaven, even though they worked for a shorter time in the Lord's vineyard. They weren't working for the Lord. They were not building up his kingdom for 20 or 30 or 40 years of their lives, but then they were employed, if you will, a little later on in their lives. So they worked for a shorter time in the Lord's vineyard, but the reward is still the same. What do we get when we die? Well, heaven. And what is that? It's God. We get to live in God for all eternity. So the reward is exactly the same for all of us. When we get to heaven, heaven is the same for you as for me, as for anybody else. Yes, we will have, those who've been baptized, we'll have an indelible mark on our souls. Also, priests are recognizable as priests, but heaven is still heaven. Heaven is still heaven. Martyrs are recognizable as martyrs. So there are differences in heaven, if you will, as in you're still you, you still are your personality, you still are your person. But heaven is heaven. It's the same for everyone, regardless. Even if we converted in the last year of our lives, even if we lived an awful life, and then through the generosity and prayers and intercession of an amazing wife or an amazing husband, we convert on our deathbed, the reward is still heaven, even though you were employed at the 11th hour, 59th minute. The reward is still the same. Is that unfair? I think if you're the beneficiary of it, if you're the one who didn't have it always right and then got to heaven, I think at the end of the day, everybody who gets to heaven gets there because of the Lord's mercy. No one earns it. No one earns it. Everyone who gets to heaven because of God's mercy. So regardless of if we were a cradle Catholic and going to Mass every day from the age of 2, even if that's the case, or if we converted way later, the reward in heaven is God himself. Just one word on our first reading from the book of Judges. we're just taking a few passages from Judges over these few days, and this one is a bit difficult to understand without the background, because all the leading men at Shechem and Beth Millo gathered, and they proclaim Abimelech king. Okay, that's fine. I mean, is that a good thing, a bad thing? And then this guy called Jotham hears about this, and he goes out and he shouts from the top of Mount Gerizim this story. One day the trees went out to anoint a king to rule over them. So they asked the olive tree, and the olive tree said, "Must I forego my oil? No, I will not." Then they asked the fig tree said, "Must I forego my sweetness?" And so he doesn't become a king either. And then they asked the vine, and the vine says, "Must I forego giving my grapes, which bring joy and cheer?" And then finally, they say to the thorn bush, "Come and be our king." Now, the interesting thing with all of this is the background story. Abimelech, who has just been elected king, in order to be king, so Gideon was king. Abimelech is Gideon's son, but through his concubine. If you don't understand, ask your parents later. So he has 70 brothers. In order to become king, he killed them all. So Abimelech has now become king because of treachery. Like he kills off his 70 brothers in order that he can become king. And these are fellow Jews, like his half-blood brothers, but fellow Jews. And in order to become king, this is what he does. That's why only one survives. Only one of the brothers survives, and that's Jotham, the guy who tells this parable of the trees went out to anoint a king, and the olive rejects, and the fig rejects, and the vine rejects, and then the thorn bush says yes. But what does the thorn bush say? And the thorn bush answered the trees, "If in all good faith you anoint me king to reign over you, come and shelter in my shade. If not, fire will come from the thorn bush and devour the cedars of Lebanon." It's kind of a prophecy that Jotham is making here. He said, "You have chosen him as your king. He will bring fire." So it's a warning to us, also as regards like our politics. We live in such a comfortable world that very easily people will vote for the person who promises them more comfort. Basically, we'll vote for the person who promises us more money. Vote for me and I'll reduce taxes and I'll make you richer. It's a very simple thing. If I vote for him, we'll make more money. We may forget to look at what is their morality like, what is their moral stance on things like abortion and contraception, those kind of things, traditional family values. So we can kind of sideline the moral issues because we get more money. So more money is more power, is more comfort. That's what I want, so that's what I vote for. And then little by little, our society starts to deviate from God's plan, and we become, like we are here in Ireland, a country that, to the majority vote of the people, voted in abortion. So we have to be so careful, also in our politics, that when we're deciding who should lead us, we're choosing people of character, people who have proven that they will stand for the hard truths, people with integrity, people with strong morality, and of course, from our perspective, preferably people of faith who live the faith, because they do decide the shape our country takes and the shape our country will be in for our children. So this is important. So we ask the Lord today to show us how to labor in his vineyard, even if we got it wrong for many years, even if we messed up for a long time and wasted a lot of our lives, even if we've been employed at the 9th or 11th hour. That's not what's important to the Lord. He wants to give us heaven, and he entrusts this world to us to build it up, make it into something beautiful. So we ask the Lord for the grace to do that in whatever way we are capable, to build up a beautiful world for his glory around us today. Amen. Dear friends, thank you so much for joining us for this homily. It's been a wonderful privilege to be able to reach so many of you through social media. We are in the middle of our fundraising campaign for Holy Family Mission for this year. It's a fundraising skydive, which will take place on September 14th. So if you'd like to support that initiative, there'll be 11 of us jumping. If you'd like to support that sponsored skydive, you can do so on our website, holyfamilymission.ie. Go up to the donate tab there, and that will take care of everything. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your prayer, and thank you so much for your support, so that we can continue to serve the many young people that come in our doors and serve all of your good selves. God bless you.